Thank you very much. I feel incredibly lucky to be here with you. Now, I'm a millennial. We've heard a little bit about Generation Y today. And I intend to start my talk the way any good millennial would, if you'll bear with me just for 1 second. But I would like to remember all of you, good people, forever with that selfie, an on-stage selfie. Let me ask each of you a question and answer it in your head. I've asked, as I've traveled the world, hundreds of people this question. Tell me about your education. Now, I can't field a response from all of you, but you've answered it in your head. Now, let's get by the raise of hands. We're here at a marketing conference. How many of you in the audience have a degree in marketing specifically? By the raise of hands. So that looks like maybe about 40%. Now, I don't know what the statistics are worldwide, but in America, for university graduates right now, they face about a 9% unemployment rate, about a 4% underemployment rate, and then about a 40% malemployment rate. And what that means is that there are 40% of our graduates who will never use their degree. And by the raise of hands, we've got about 60% of the audience here today is practicing marketers who did not graduate in marketing. Now, all of us, as I've asked this question to people, tell me about your education. People inevitably answer in relation to their university or their degree. I went to this university, I graduated in X, Y, or Z. Rarely does anyone ever answer with their passion, with the last book they read, with the last course they took, what topic interests them. We only have one language when it comes to learning and communicating our learning, and that is the degree. I think that is a shame. Increasingly, we have to learn our entire lives through. Increasingly, we are learning not just from 1 or 2 institutions early in our lives, but we are learning from a diversity of sources over the entirety of our lives. But we need a way to capture that. So my background is in education. I was part of a startup that actually helps Turkish students get into American universities, as well as students from around the world. The second company I was a part of is a university, an accredited university, has campus and online, associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree. And then, to solve this problem of bringing together our lifelong learning, I launched Degreed. And Degreed's mission is to jailbreak the degree. And by that, I mean create a more open, modular, and lifelong measurement of our learning. Let me show you a little bit of how this vision, what it looked like in the beginning. Can I get you guys to click on the perfect? Now, Tara did a fabulous job talking to us about training our brains as part of changing the game. And I'm here to talk not about Degreed and not about the brain, but about learning as an organization and how we can use opportunities of change to adapt and to capture opportunities in our industries. So from Peter's book, he articulates it as speedboats versus supertankers. That during times of change, rarely is it the supertankers that capture the opportunity. Rather, it's the speedboats, nimble, reactive, that are able to capture the opportunity. And in periods of change, it is learners who inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Which one are you? Are you a learner? Or do you consider yourself amongst the ranks of the learned? And think back, as you reflect on that, to how you answered the question in your own head, and tell me about your education. Did you have to go back 10, 20 years to your college degree in your head? Are you a learner, or are you amongst the learned? Now see, truly, the world is changing. And this is both a challenge and an opportunity. This is the knowledge doubling curve. 100 years ago, the rate at which knowledge doubled was about every century. 50 years ago or so, it was every 25 years the amount of knowledge was doubling. Currently, we're at about 13 months, and IBM has predicted with the advent of the Internet of Things that will soon be every 12 hours. Now, when I look at this curve, I think of the quote from T.S. Eliot. Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? And where is the knowledge we have lost in information? Truly, it is staggering the pace of change in which we must operate in our industries and in the knowledge economy. To give you a sense of the scale, so if the size of an ant represents 1 megabyte of data, which is about the size of a book on your Kindle or your iPad, then an exabyte is the size of the circumference of the sun. And we are now producing several exabytes a year in information. I'm actually going to skip that one and come back to it. Now, this is no different in big data in our industries, just data and information at large, but it's no different in learning. The world of learning and education has changed, and it has exploded, and it is accelerating at an exponential pace, truly exponential pace. So there are now available to each one of us here today about 500,000 courses online. Some of them free, some of them paid, but you could today access any number of 500,000 courses. Now again, for a sense of scale, the largest universities in the world have a catalog of about 10,000 courses. The amount of learning available to us is at some level overwhelming. And we have to change our paradigms. We must change the game when it comes to learning, education, and corporate training. Not only is the content proliferating, but the modalities of learning are changing equally. There are now the MOOCs, massively open online courses in Europe, in the United States, in India, and China, opening up the best professors in the world to all of us. This, had the promise, the hint in open education resources 10 years ago. But this came really at an unforeseen pace. There's now boot camps and platforms, e-learning, offline learning, there's marketplaces. There are so many different ways for us to learn. And now, the very best business leaders amongst us, the one thing they all have in common, you often see stories of who didn't graduate from college. Bill Gates amongst them, Steve Jobs. Who didn't graduate from college? Who did? There's a divide, there's a split. But what the best business leaders all have in common is that they are deeply curious and great informal learners. Now, this anecdote is a little secret. I have never seen this pieced together before. This came across reading over about 2-3 years. But something was floating, tied this together. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and Clayton Christensen, who this is Whitney's co-founder, who we heard from earlier, HBS professor, 3 of the best business minds. They all read the entire encyclopedia as children, deeply curious and know how to unlock the information. In the long run, taken over enough time, the only competitive advantage you can sustain is how well your company, your organization, can learn. You have to be able to learn faster than your competitors to beat them in the long run. How do we do it? How can we make learning a competitive advantage for our organizations? What does it take? I'm only beginning to learn the answers to that question myself, but I've been given a unique vantage point. With Degreed, we launched it in 2012 directly to consumers for free. Any individual in the world can use Degreed for free to track their individual learning. But then we launched a version of Degreed with organizations. And for the first time ever, organizations are able to see not only the university degrees that their employees have, not only the training that they have provided to their organization, but with Degreed, we tie it all together, all learning. So all the academic, all the formal training, but also all of the informal learning, the articles, videos, conferences, podcasts, certificates. We bring it all together. And Degreed now serves some of the world's largest organizations in finance, in healthcare, in technology, and automotive. Our largest client is 300,000 employees. Our smallest is about 20. So big and small. I have been given a front row seat to organizations and how they learn. And these are the tips that I can leave with you. First, if you ever find yourself asking someone what college they went to or what degree they have, you're doing it wrong. The new language of learning is skills, not degrees. Now, this is a challenge. This is the frontier. We are not yet in a world where we can easily articulate our skills, but that is the future. And organizations that are leading on this front are truly the world's most innovative learning organizations. Now, you, as a learning culture, as an organization that values learning, you will make sure to pursue not only formal training, the regulated, the compliance-driven, the continuing education, the formal, but you will also embrace and pursue the informal. The articles, the videos, the mentoring, the experiential, pausing to take time to look back and learn on your experiences. Now, in Peter's book, this is one that's aligned very nicely with his thinking. and his model for amplifying our organizations. And that is, we're in this shift from command and control organizations to really networked organizations. Historically, training in our organizations has always been a command and control, a top-down model. The executives or the HR department or the training department, they choose the training. They purchase the courses. They develop the training. And then it is pushed down to the organization. The problem with this is that there will forever be inefficiency, a relevancy gap to doing it this way. You cannot anymore, in a world with 500,000 courses, with diverse needs, people at various levels of competencies and skills, one solution, one size does not fit all. But that is historically how we have trained our organizations. We've treated everyone unilaterally. Now, as a learning culture, you empower your learners. They make the decisions. They know best what they need to do to succeed in their roles. The employees, their managers, you empower them. And learning comes from the bottom of the organization up. This is similar, but by the raise of hands, let me ask you another question. First, I'll ask it two ways. First, how many people here are given a personal learning budget? I see one hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some. Truly empowering our employees as learners means changing the paradigm, changing the game. We have to empower them with time and money. They need to be the decision makers. No longer can we effectively, at any level, try and coordinate all of the skill development that needs to happen in our organizations. To happen effectively, it has to happen from the bottom up. But how do you do that? You have to empower them as the decision maker. You have to empower them with dollars. You have to empower them with the time to learn. A great example is HubSpot, a big marketing company in America. Their growth team is each given a $5,000 learning budget annually. I tacked on here the annual growth rate that HubSpot has had over the last 3 years. A phenomenal success and truly a leading learning culture. In a world of this many resources, why is it that we go to a single university anymore? The world's best content is scattered around the globe. The world's best thought leaders are scattered around the globe. It is no longer possible to get the best education from any single source. And that is inclusive of the world's best universities. The world's best learning is scattered. And if you are truly to capture and become the most effective and efficient learner you can become, you will look for the best resources regardless of where they come. Now the challenge comes in what happens when you have 100 people on your team and they're all learning from somewhere different. It's a logistical challenge. There has to be tracking, accountability. How do you purchase? But making that leap is a part of changing the game. The best learning cultures, the accountability does not come from HR twisting people's arms, forcing them to learn. It comes from social transparency, learning with your team, learning together, sharing what you learn. And when this happens, Learning is no longer something you will have to force your company to do. When this happens, learning is something that is enjoyable, is fun. Now let me give you one last question and a vision of what we are trying to accomplish into the future. Today, tell me about your education, and you will be answered with where I went to university, what my degree was in. We believe the frontier, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you ask someone, tell me about your education, they will be able to easily articulate, I have these skills at these levels, in a standardized way. That is what Degreed has set out to do. We take all of your learning, academic, professional, informal, from all modalities, from all sources, from around the globe, and bring it together. And the next step to that is then looking across all of your learning and credentialing each of the skills that you have. This is something that we do for both individuals as well as at large for organizations. That inclusive of all of someone's learning, reviewed by other experts with that skill, we are able to evaluate the skills and competencies that you as an individual have and that your organization has. We believe that this will change the game, that this unlocks fundamental questions that we have never been able to answer before. So think of your company and try and answer the question, do you have more or less skills and knowledge inside your organization than your direct competitor? Who knows more, Coca-Cola or Pepsi? It's been a question that is simple, but has never been able to be answered before. With Degreed, for the first time, we are bringing all of the world's learning together. Facebook created the world's social network. LinkedIn is a pioneer in the professional network. And Degreed is really the world's first skills network. As you create that learning culture inside of your organization, you will be able to change the game. It was Ramon who talked to us earlier about we don't know what the rules of the game are going to be. Ultimately, all we can do is affect the culture inside our organization. We cannot predict what is coming. But creating a learning culture is the one thing you can do to ensure your success and your competitive advantage into the future. If I can be of any help to you, I am happy to answer questions, any help I can be. Thank you very much.